In a serene lakeside community, where the sun glimmered on the water and the sound of laughter filled the air, lived a man named Jake. He cherished his peaceful life, spending weekends fishing and enjoying the tranquility of his dock. The dock had been in his family for generations, a place where memories were made and stories were shared. However, trouble was brewing. Karen, the newly elected president of the Homeowners Association, HOA, had moved in next door and was determined to impose her strict rules on the community. She had a reputation for being overly controlling, and her latest target was Jake's beloved dock. The problem: one afternoon, as Jake was preparing to head out for a day of fishing, he received an unexpected visit from Karen. With a clipboard in hand and a stern expression on her face, she marched down to his dock. "Jake, you can't keep using this dock," she declared. "It's against HOA regulations. I'm issuing you an eviction notice." Taken aback, Jake tried to reason with her. "This dock has been in my family for decades. It's not just a structure. It's part of my heritage," he protested. But Karen was unmoved, insisting that he was in violation of some obscure rule that she had enforced. Frustrated and feeling powerless, Jake watched as Karen strutted away, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. How could she take something that meant so much to him? The decision. Determined to stand his ground, Jake decided he wouldn't let Karen have the last word. He knew that the HOA rules were often enforced arbitrarily, and he was not about to be bullied into giving up his dock. He hatched a plan that would not only assert his rights, but also send a clear message to Karen. That evening, he gathered his friends at a local bar to discuss his situation. Over drinks and laughter, they brainstormed ways to get back at Karen while keeping it lighthearted. Jake's best friend, Mark, suggested a bold idea. "Why don't you seize her boat? If she's trying to evict you from your dock, show her what it feels like to lose something she values." The group erupted in laughter. But as the idea sank in, Jake felt a spark of determination. It was a playful revenge that might just work, setting the plan in motion. The next day, Jake and his friends hatched their plan. They would distract Karen while Jake quietly made his way to her boat, which was docked just a few feet away from his own. The plan was to temporarily borrow her boat as a way to teach her a lesson about respect and boundaries. They waited until the afternoon when Karen was known to be at her house, busy organizing HOA paperwork. With stealth and a bit of mischief in their hearts, Jake and his friends set their plan into motion. The execution. Jake approached Karen's boat, a sleek vessel with a shiny exterior and an impressive motor. With the help of his friends, he quickly untied it from the dock and started the engine, feeling a rush of adrenaline. They quietly motored away from the area, careful not to attract any attention. As they cruised across the lake, laughter and cheers erupted among his friends. "This is the best getaway ever," Mark shouted, waving his arms in excitement. They took their time, enjoying the sun and the thrill of the moment. Meanwhile, Karen eventually noticed her boat was missing. Panic set in as she rushed to her dock, realizing what had happened. "What? Where's my boat?" she yelled, frantically looking around. The confrontation. After a leisurely ride, Jake and his friends returned, parking the boat at a secluded spot on the shore. They watched from a distance as Karen continued to search for her missing vessel, growing increasingly frantic. Finally, Jake decided it was time to confront her. He approached her dock with a confident smile. "Hey, Karen? Looking for something?" he called out, feigning innocence. Karen turned, her eyes narrowing as she realized what had happened. "You took my boat!" "This is outrageous," she shouted, her voice filled with disbelief. Jake chuckled. "Just a little reminder of what it feels like to lose something you value, Karen. You can't just try to evict me from my dock without consequences." Finding common ground. The confrontation escalated, but Jake remained calm. "I think it's time we have a real conversation about respect and community," he said, taking a deep breath. "This dock has been part of my life for years, and I won't let anyone take that away from me." Karen, realizing how her actions had affected Jake, began to soften. "I may have overstepped. I just wanted to ensure everyone followed the rules," she admitted, her voice lowering. "But I didn't consider your side of things." Jake nodded, sensing an opportunity for resolution. "Let's find a way to coexist. we can establish some guidelines that respect everyone's property while still allowing for some freedom. A new understanding. After a lengthy discussion, the two reached an agreement. They decided to create a community meeting to revisit the HOA rules, ensuring they were fair and reasonable for all residents. Jake agreed to help Karen draft a new set of guidelines that acknowledge the importance of personal property while maintaining the spirit of the community. The boat incident became a turning point in their relationship. Rather than viewing each other as adversaries, they found common ground and began to work together to improve the neighborhood. They organized events to promote camaraderie, including lakeside barbecues and fishing competitions that brought the community closer. Conclusion. In the end, what began as a conflict over a dock turned into a valuable lesson about respect, communication, and understanding. Jake learned that standing up for his rights didn't have to come at the cost of friendship, while Karen realized that being part of a community meant considering the needs of others. As they worked together, the lakeside community flourished, becoming a place where neighbors supported one another and celebrated their shared love for the water. And as for Jake and Karen, they forged an unlikely friendship, proving that sometimes a little mischief can pave the way for understanding and collaboration. In a serene lakeside community where the sun glimmered on the water and laughter filled the air, lived Jake, a dedicated rancher and lover of the outdoors. Jake had spent countless weekends on his beloved dock, fishing and enjoying the tranquility of the lake. The dock had been in his family for generations, a cherished spot where memories were made and stories shared. However, the peaceful atmosphere was disrupted when Karen, the newly elected president of the Homeowners Association, HOA, moved in next door. Known for her overbearing attitude and strict enforcement of HOA rules, she quickly became a source of tension in the community. The problem. One sunny afternoon, as Jake prepared for a day of fishing, he was confronted by Karen, clipboard in hand and a stern expression on her face. "Jake, you can't keep using this dock. It's against HOA regulations, and I'm issuing you an eviction notice," she declared, her tone uncompromising. Jake was taken aback. "This dock has been in my family for decades. It's not just a structure. It's part of my heritage," he protested, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. But Karen remained unmoved, insisting that he was violating some obscure rule that she had chosen to enforce. Frustrated and feeling powerless, Jake watched as she walked away, determined to take control of his situation. He refused to let her bully him into giving up something that meant so much. The decision. That night, Jake gathered his friends at a local bar to vent his frustrations. Over drinks and laughter, they brainstormed ways to counter Karen's unreasonable behavior. His best friend, Mark, jokingly suggested, "Why don't you seize her boat? If she's trying to evict you from your dock, show her what it feels like to lose something she values." At first, everyone laughed at the absurdity of the idea, but as they discussed it further, Jake felt a spark of determination. It was a playful yet bold act of revenge that might just get the point across, setting the plan in motion. The following day, Jake and his friends devised a plan. They would distract Karen while Jake quietly made his way to her boat, which was docked just a few feet away from his own. The operation required stealth and a bit of mischief, and Jake was ready to take action. They waited until the afternoon when Karen was busy organizing HOA paperwork inside her house. With a mix of excitement and nervousness, Jake approached her boat, a sleek vessel with a shiny exterior and an impressive motor. With the help of his friends, he untied it from the dock and started the engine, feeling a rush of adrenaline. The execution. As they cruised across the lake, laughter erupted among Jake and his friends. "This is the best getaway ever," Mark shouted, waving his arms in excitement. They took their time, enjoying the sun and the thrill of the moment. Meanwhile, Karen eventually noticed her boat was missing and rushed to the dock, panic setting in as she realized what had happened. "What? Where's my boat?" she yelled, frantically searching the area. Jake, still on the water, watched from a distance, feeling a mix of guilt and exhilaration. He knew he had crossed a line, but he also felt empowered by standing up for himself. The confrontation. After a leisurely ride, Jake and his friends returned, parking the boat at a secluded spot on the shore. They could see Karen still searching for her missing vessel, growing increasingly frantic. It was time for the confrontation. Jake approached her dock, a confident smile on his face. "Hey, Karen? Looking for something?" he called out, feigning innocence. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she processed the sight of him. "You took my boat!" "This is outrageous!" she shouted, her voice filled with disbelief and anger. Just. My home sits on the shores of Lake Serenity at the end of a peninsula known locally as The Point. My property includes the oldest, most solid private dock on the lake. The neighborhood, Azure Shores Estates, is controlled by the iron fist of Veronica Hawthorne, the HOA president and self-appointed queen of the waterfront. Veronica was a stickler for rules, especially the ones that inconvenienced others. And she hated my dock. Why? Because it was the best, and she didn't own it. The eviction notice. The main conflict started when Veronica decided my dock needed to be shortened by 20 feet, because it supposedly obstructed the view of the common beach. After weeks of petty emails, she arrived at my property one sunny Saturday morning, clipboard in hand, flanked by a nervous HOA committee member. "Mr. Dawson," Veronica announced, not making eye contact. "As of this moment, your dock is deemed an unapproved structure in violation of Bylaw Forp 7, Section B, Waterside Obstruction. You have 72 hours to dismantle the final 20 feet. Veronica, the dock was built 30 years before this HOA existed," I replied calmly. "It's fully grandfathered." "The new bylaws supersede grandfathering," she insisted, tapping the clipboard. "And speaking of your violations, your motorboat, the Wanderer, is tied too close to the end, violating the 10-foot mooring setback. I will personally supervise its removal," I smiled. "You might want to check your facts, Veronica. I'll see you in court." As she turned to leave, she pointed triumphantly toward her own vessel, a massive, custom-built white yacht named the Empress, which was currently tied up at the community's main pier, less than 100 yards from my dock. "And you see my boat?" she said with a smug flourish. "It follows every single rule to the letter." "Does it, Veronica?" "I sincerely hope it does," I said, my smile widening. The trap. The missing permit I walked inside, grabbed the dusty, heavy folder containing my original property documents, and drove straight to the county records office. I knew Veronica had missed something. She focused so much on HOA rules, she forgot about the actual law of the water. My property deed contained the original covenants for the entire peninsula, including the original construction agreement for the main pier, the very pier where Veronica's massive yacht was currently docked. What she had missed, buried deep in the 1995 legal language, was a clause stating that the main pier was built on a small, protected sliver of land that was still technically my riparian easement until the year 2045. More importantly, I found the waterside permit for the pier's construction. The permit explicitly limited the size of vessels that could permanently moor there to a maximum of 35 feet to maintain safe navigation in the narrow cove. Veronica's yacht, the Empress, was a glorious, rules-abiding 55-foot monster. Seizing the yacht, he returned to the lake 2 hours later. I didn't call a lawyer. I called the County Marine Patrol and an official from the Water Resources Authority. When the Marine Patrol boat arrived, I met them on the shore with the documents laid out. "Officer," I said, pointing to the main pier, "that boat, the Empress, is 55 feet long, moored on a pier with a legal maximum of 35 feet. Furthermore, the pier itself is on my legally protected easement. I am invoking my right as the easement holder to remove the illegally moored vessel." The officer, after carefully reviewing the dusty permit and the current vessel registry, sighed. "He's right. The permit is clear. Mr. Dawson, you are legally entitled to request the vessel's removal." I immediately hired a professional marine transport crew who were already waiting nearby as the crew started prepping the 55-foot Empress for towing. Veronica, who had been alerted by a frantic neighbor, came screaming down the boardwalk. "What in God's name is happening? Get away from my boat! That's a $250,000 vessel." I walked up to her, holding the old brittle permit. "You tried to evict my 20-foot motorboat for violating a made-up setback, Veronica," I said. I am seizing your 55-foot yacht because it is violating an actual, legally documented, county-mandated waterside permit on my easement. She snatched the paper, her eyes scanning the faded text. You can't do this! I'm the president of the HOA. The HOA doesn't trump the county water authority, I explained. And since you are the registered owner of the oversized vessel, and I am the registered easement holder, the boat is being towed to a storage dry dock I own on the other side of the lake. As the massive yacht was slowly pulled away from the main pier, its alarm blaring, Veronica stood on the dock, utterly defeated. Her boat was gone. Her authority was exposed as hollow. And worst of all, the enormous storage fee I was about to charge her for the Empress's indefinite stay in my dry dock would make her monthly HOA dues look like pocket change. My dock, meanwhile, remained exactly 20 feet long.